Programming again for the day. Not much to say, just want to get into it. Want to keep working on my Polygon intersection algorithms, see if I can get that sorted out. I have a bit of progress that I made off stream. Things are not totally perfect yet though, so there's still work to do. At the moment, I've got a little bit of noise in the background. I've got my laundry going, and shouldn't take the whole stream, so hopefully that's not too loud, but that's really all I've got to say. I feel like I should get started. So here we are. I do have a little test image up here to kind of demonstrate what's in progress here. So I actually have a bit of a test going on here. I have a few different pieces that I can pull out and show just to get a feel for what this algorithm's looking like. So I have a check that a predicate that checks if a point is inside of a polygon, and it works just fine for any convex polygon, but it doesn't work for concave polygons yet. So I can, first off, I can show this set of things. Hopefully this works. It should. Let's do a six-sided hexagon here, and I'm just going to uncomment this stuff, and I think this should build okay. Yes, so this here, oh, it's a little hard to see it. Let me, there's two things that I'm pretty happy with. Let's also make this bigger still. Right, so I have a more or less working intersection point finder algorithm. I say more or less because there are cases where it doesn't totally work, and I don't completely understand it all yet. So I still have to figure out a bit of work, but it works well enough that I can continue and try to build the algorithm out further. So I'm pretty happy with that. Let's actually, oh, I keep doing that. Come on. So this is one thing that I am frustrated with Emacs is the double square bracket thing. It treats as like a link, and if I try to click it, it accidentally tries to run code sometimes. A little bit of a pain in the butt, but not a big deal. That's also not what I want to work on. So let me, so one thing that might have edge cases is something like this. If I go here and try to run this, it might have some weird results. It's not too bad. So these horizontal lines, there's two intersection points there, one at this point, one at that, and so on. So that should be okay, really. What I'm not certain of is this here. So if I actually, so the radius of that's 85. If I move this over, oh, 0 is still correct there. If I do 170 should be half of that, right? 85 times 2, 165 plus 5, yeah, 170. Okay, so that should make a single coincident point here, yeah, so that looks okay. I'm a little too lazy to figure out this point at the moment to try and find an exact intersection for something totally parallel, but I've already tested that case here, so I'm yammering on. This seems to work reasonably well. The only thing I don't know if I've tested this, so these are not intersecting at all. It should work just fine and have no points on it. Okay, that looks okay. So reasonably speaking, things are working pretty well, which I'm happy with. So if I do this as 85, exactly half, I do wonder if this will cause some issue. It does not, so there's only 2 intersection points there. It's looking pretty great. Yeah, so I'm pretty happy with that. It does even work with 2 line segments. If you just treat the line segments as if they were polygons, it works just fine. So that's pretty nice. And give me 1 second here. Got a bit of an issue with my chat window here. Sorry about that. Let me refresh this here. Let me just see. Sometimes I don't like technology, you know? It just doesn't work perfectly. But hey, that's just the way it goes. I'm trying to see. Boy, oh boy. I have the UI open on my phone and it just crunches everything up in there. So yeah, perfect. You know what? Let's just going to assume that the chat will catch up at some point, and I'll deal with things at that time. So I do feel as if I'm just wasting my time here. Okay, enough milling about. Let's get back to trying to sort this algorithm out a little bit here. How about that? I think that's a good idea. Let me test the other direction though for a second here, because I keep insisting on not starting my work right away. Okay, yeah, it's all working as I might have expected, which makes me happy. I love that. That's great. All right. Let me see here. I super don't understand what's going on. Every couple of streams, like, so I run OBS and Firefox with my Twitch window, or like my chat, my stream manager, whatever it's called, and it works. And then every couple of streams, the dashboard just totally tanks, and I have no idea why. It's not like I leave my computer on, so it's not like long running memory leaks or anything weird like that. It just is inconsistent. Oh well, it's just the way it is. Some things never change. Do. Very dumb. Okay, so what I actually do need to test is this situation. I need to make a function that can handle a check if points are inside a polygon, if it's a concave polygon. And one day I will figure it out. Jeez. Okay. If anyone has commented in chat so far, I'm really sorry. I have completely missed it, so bear with me. Alright, well, my computer is trying to think. I should also try to think. So what I'm going to do is just comment out the parts of this that I don't really need. So I don't need the second shape. I just want the random points colored green or red depending on their inclusion in the shape. Oh, so here, this is it. This is the algorithm working pretty nicely for, oh yeah, I forgot to comment this out. This is working nicely for a convex shape, but it is indeed the concave shapes that I actually need. So if I refresh this, I have this here. This jog inward around this shape is what is meant by a concave polygon. The angle between these two, what's the definition for it again? I believe it's the inner angle between between two line segments is greater than 180 or something along those lines. This is greater than 90, but it's less than 180. This is less than 180. This is less than 180. This is less than 180, but this is greater than 180. I think that's how you could check for concavity. And in the case of a concave polygon, what I'm going to do is just split it into triangles and then test if the point is inside any of those triangles. These are probably like naive and inefficient implementations, but I want to just get something working, and then I can start to optimize out different functions as I go. Because I'd rather have something that works a little bit slowly than something that doesn't work at all. So I'm just going to go with the first implementation I can think of, because then Apparently I'm a little tired today. At least I'll have a seed of an idea to optimize off of, as opposed to just stumbling blindly. Let's see if there's anything I can do. Okay. So this here is my approach to discovering if a point is inside a shape. You give it the shape, like the list of points that generate the polygon, and then you give it the point you want to check. What it does is find the midpoint of the polygon with the midpoint function, and that's guaranteed to be inside for, it's basically the average of all of the x positions and the average of all the y positions as a point, I think, and that will be inside the polygon for convex polygons. There's situations where it might not be for concave polygons. It'll also always be inside for triangles, which are convex polygons. So the idea for this generic one was to triangulate the shape and then check if the point is inside for every triangle. There's a few issues with that. The first is it's going to be slow because it has to check for inclusion for every triangle, so you have to check a lot of edges in comparison to checking a polygon. So there would be there would be better ways to do that, but this was the first easiest thing that came to mind. The other problem is that Delaunay triangulation also isn't working for concave shapes like this, because I might have it in my REPL here. If I do just trying to go through my history here. I'm being a little bit lazy. Oh, wait a second. Let me just do this instead. Let me make a list of points that I can use to test. 0, 0, 10, 0, 5, 5, 10, 10, 0, 10. Right, so if I do triangulate A, the list of triangles here, so the shape effectively looks like this. There should only be 3 triangles. I could draw 2 edges like this and create 1, 2, 3 triangles, but there's actually 4 here. So it's triangulating this triangle as if it were inside the shape, and that's why you can imagine a line here that is effectively, it's incorrectly part of that shape. So the Delaunay triangulation is giving me all the triangles in the convex hull of the polygon. So it's not working the way I want. So I'm in the middle of coming up with something that'll do what's called ear clipping, which I might have here. So triangulation, there's this idea here. Basically, for any polygon without a hole, you can just take 3 points, draw a line between those two like that, and then that's a triangle, and then you cut that off, and then with the remaining polygon, with the added edge that you drew in here, so you've just taken 1 point away from the original polygon, but added an edge to close it again. Then you run that same thing, so you get another triangle out and a smaller polygon, another triangle, boop, 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 until you've consumed all of the polygon into triangles. So that's ear clipping. Should work if I'm smart enough to come up with my implementation. I might be, I might not be. It remains to be seen. Once again, I am sorry if you are commenting and asking questions and saying anything at all. I can't see it because my chat dash is just currently garbo. So, apologies. I do wonder if I could do this. No, that's not what I wanted. Maybe this is good. I'm going to go ahead and say that's good enough for now. If there's anyone watching and willing to test a chat message, I can't see it on my computer, but I've got my phone here just as a temporary failsafe. Maybe that'll be sufficient. This is getting a little ridiculous on my end. I am very sorry. Things are slow today. Hey, I'm okay with it. I am cool with it. One more thing. And I don't like when stuff like this happens. It does distract from the main idea of what's going on here, but what am I gonna do? Oh, it's a little small. There we go. Yeah, so really I just need to get this to correctly not include those points. Pretty simple in theory. Okay. Let's see here. Right, so I have here this work in progress function. If I take A, this is a shape that is approximately this kind of shape here. It's got a concave part here. If I run clip ear on that, it gives me, so first, right, it gives me a triangle which just happens to be the first 3 points there. And if I do this and take the second, this is the remaining, it should be anyway, the remaining polygon. So does that make sense? So we have 0 to 10, 0 to 5, 5. This is the ear that it clipped, the bottom triangle like that. And the remaining polygon has a set of points that goes from 10, 10, 0, 10, 0, 0, 5, 5. So that is correct. That looks okay. So I should be able to clip ear this second thing. If I do first of that, right, I get the next triangle, which is different than this triangle, right? So this one is 10, 10 to 0, 10 to 0, 0, which is that. Does that make sense? What does second look like here? It should be, yeah, 5, 5, 5, 5 to 10, 10 to 0, 0. It's a really, really thin triangle, but it does work, or it theoretically works. That's one problem with ear clipping. You might have really bad, it's like kind of naive, at least the way I've done it. It might have really bad aspect ratio on the triangles you take off, but I'm going to assume that that's okay for the time being, even though it might lead to some precision problems later on. But I'm going to call that okay for now. So what I kind of want to do actually is something what's the right way to do it? Yeah, let's do something kind of like this. I think this will make sense. Clip ear. And this one is tries points. So basically here we have a conditional if equals count of and new points is 3. If that's true, wait a second, let me swap the, if the count of that is greater than 3, then recur, calling clip ear with conj onto tries try, but I don't, oop, this is a mistake here. With, so recur, and then points will be endpoints. Yes. If it's not true that endpoints is greater than 3, thus, if it is exactly 3, right, that'll be the first time it's true, because the number of points will go down by 1 every time, or it should, until the end. Then you return, for simplicity, triangles. You should actually just be able to do this. Let's see if my brain is correct. So let's do clip ear A. Should be 3 triangles. Okay, so something is wrong, and that's okay. That is okay. This is a fixable problem. I'm sure of it. Hey, Mike, just saw your message now. I don't know how recently you've typed that in. I'm having a bit of trouble with my chat window on my streaming computer today, so I'm attempting to look at it on my phone. So apologies if I missed it for a while there. Just having some technical glitches. Unfortunately, that's just the way it goes sometimes, you know? But in general, if you're still there, I'm doing well today. How are you doing? I hope things are going okay for you. Oh, just got here? Oh, I happened to look down just at the right time, I guess, to catch it in, to catch your message. Well, at least I've got some form of communication going. You know, I love computers, but I hate computers, you know? They're not like, they're never quite perfect in my experience. There's always a little something that's like, you know what, not quite what I wanted, but hey, you know, I make it work. Okay, something is obviously wrong with my recursion here, because this is not returning anything useful to me. So I should, what I hoped to get was a list of 3 triangles from this recursive algorithm. So my assumptions must be wrong somewhere. Let's see what this says at the end of this. Okay, so it's only doing one step, I think. Or it's doing nothing. It's doing nothing. Okay. What did I miss here? Oh. No. Huh. Anything new and exciting going on in your world there, Mike? Hope things are going okay for you. Any crazy debugging stories? Ow. Let's see. Not really. Been a busy few days trying to tidy up a release that's going out. Wasn't able to drop in on the last couple of streams, which was a bummer. You started research on how to write your own programming language. Whew, that sounds exciting. That sounds really fun. Why not add to the list, right? That's a cool project. By the way, I mean, you know, if you miss a stream here and there, hey, no skin off my back, or whatever the proper saying is. But I appreciate that that you want to come in and tune in. That's nice. What kind of language? Like just for fun, or do you have like a sort of a kind of specific idea in mind about it? Is it just to learn? Because that sounds fascinating. I'm not sure I'm there yet myself, but one day that might be a fun project to tackle. So this is doing nothing. Why would that be? Oh, of course. I'm counting the wrong thing here, I believe. Let's just run this in the REPL to make sure my brain is on the right page here. Let's run it on the point set A. Oh, no, that's no good. Drop 3A. Okay, that gets me that. Oh, of course, the keep is not a thing in this. Let's just do 1. I believe that I've made a mistake. If I do this, I think that might fix that issue there. Let's see. See if I'm on the right page, on the right track here. All right, that looks to be closer to correct. Let's go tries. More of a learning experience. Going to try make it in the likeness of Clojure, where it's a functional language. Maybe more of a C style syntax though. Okay. Huh. Since I learned, so when I first, so I'm self-taught as a programmer in general. That sounds really cool, by the way. This is relating to syntax. This thought came to my mind. In school I learned, well, learned in quotes, I had to use C++. I figured it out. Hey Lumi, how's it going? Hope things are well for you. I learned C++, and then fast forward a few years, you know, I had to use VBA on the job because someone made a gross spreadsheet and blah, blah, blah. Then I started teaching myself Python, which had a really nice syntax in comparison, in my opinion. You know, it was interesting to not have to use curly braces to close code blocks. And then I forced myself to learn Clojure, which had a rather distinct syntax difference. But now when I try to like poke around in other languages like C or Rust with heavier syntax, you could say, I just don't want to anymore, you know? Like it's like I hate having to hold shift and write all these weird brackets so frequently. It's just a silly little mental thing that now that I've used Clojure a lot, more than Python, at least recently, or other languages, it's hard to make that mental switch again. So that's all. It's not good or bad. It just was something I noticed about myself as I was using different things. Okay, let's see. Where am I at here? Lumi, parens look like a bad idea from the outside. Once you get used to it, you don't want to use anything else anymore. Yeah, I'm a huge fan of if you're like, I completely agree. Python's not bad. Can't tell you the number of times I was burned by an extra or a missing indent. Oh yeah, Mike, when I was using Python, I had that problem a lot too. Now, part of me would say I wasn't that good at it at the time, so you know, there's the, I don't know what percentage of my frustrations were just me being inexperienced versus me having those issues. Hard to say, but that's not to say that like, you know, syntax for any language is like the surface layer of important factors, right? It's not nothing, but it's like the color of your car not changing the engine's capability, right? Like, there's a lot more than just syntax, but I am so used to parens now, and I do love how easy it is. Like, you don't ever have to worry about order of operations and things like that. You just kind of collapse the parens, and it's just really nice. I like it. But yeah, I'm just waxing poetic about about Lisps now. All right, let's see if this actually does anything useful for me. It does not. Okay, perfect. So, where did I go wrong here? I'm not thinking very hard right now, which is part of my problem, right? This shouldn't be too difficult, but you know. The fact that in Lisp there is no syntax, just a way to write down a data structure, is really the specialness. It makes it sensible to define your own syntax. Yeah, I guess that I'm being a little loose when I use the word syntax. It is definitely the case that you can barely call it a syntax. I would say Clojure does have a little bit of syntax to it, right? Like, this is different than this, right? Like, these do carry some meaning, so they're not purely without syntax, but it's very light in the case of Clojure. But yeah, you're totally right. The fact that it's basically no syntax is basically what's really powerful about it. Okay, what am I trying to do here? Why did I do it this way? I could just do this. I think. And I always forget this. If I conj into a vector, it stays a vector, so I shouldn't need to do this either, because I'm forcing this to be in a vector already. Okay, that might make sense. But that still doesn't answer. So if endpoints is greater than 3, do this. Oh. No. Yeah. Maybe I just have something backwards. Right, so it's doing one set and then endpoints. If I count endpoints, if I count that, am I counting just a thing that's one length? Is that why? It is 3 right away. Oh, no, I do have, I'm totally making the wrong data structure here. This is not correct. I do need to, oh, right, because keep is actually, that's why I had it as concat, silly me. Ridiculous. It's crazy talk. Okay, let's try this again. Now what did I do wrong? Still something wrong. Okay. Yeah, that should work, shouldn't it? Boy, oh boy, let's see. Let's return everything so I can wrap my head around this. I'm sure this isn't, I'm sure I'm just making silly mistakes, but it's just kind of going to be one of those days. Apologies in advance, but that's just how it's got to be sometimes. Okay, so the try is that, which makes sense. It's just taking the first off the list of A, the first 3, which is, ooh, wait, what? Take 3. Sorry, I'm a little distracted right now. Things are just not working the way I want them to on my stream, so I do apologize if I'm missing messages at all or if I'm really distracted. It's just, it's bugging me a little more than it should, to be honest. Okay. Also, my laundry machine seems to just make noise at random. Life's chaotic over here. Oh boy, crazy days, crazy days. All right, what, as a total complete tangent waste for a second, what I am gonna do is just make myself a little bit happier by having this build a drawing that is actually working. Even there I'm wrong, it's not totally working, but this is in the right direction. Let's see here, just to keep my spirits up. Okay, so we're on the right track. There's clearly something wrong with points along a certain axis, I guess, but let's just take things one step at a time, you know? Because there's a slight optimization I think I can make for sort of how to check these things a little bit. For example, if I know that the polygon going in is convex, I can run a faster inside check. I could just do point inside convex, for example, instead, and that is a little faster. So there's a way that I can wrap that up as a generic, like as a general sort of optimization later on. But I'm distracting myself from what I'm trying to get to, which is a reasonable solution for this ear clipping thing. I know it shouldn't be hard, but I'm just goofing myself over here. Into this, take 3A. But why? Oh, wait, is it, maybe it's showing me step 2 of the recursion for some reason? That might be... let's try that. See if it shows me anything different. Wait. Right, so take 3A. Right, so this is the first triangle, but it's doubly nested here. The reason for that would be what exactly here? I probably am calling something incorrect here. I'm probably this new try should be derived entirely from points, which makes sense. That keep would also be first from try and last from try. That I think makes sense. And then you just concat that onto the points list to make a new points list. I thought, let's see here. Well, if you've typed things in the chat that are questions or comments or things and I have not responded to them, there is a reasonable chance that I just totally missed it. So you can repeat them if you want to. But yeah, you know, it's going wrong. What's going wrong with the code right now? I didn't quite follow. Right, so I'll go from what I'm attempting to do in general. I'm in the middle of trying to make a Polygon Union function. So given two polygons, merge them into a single polygon. That's the operation I want to build. The idea I have for how to achieve that involves finding the intersection points of two polygons, finding all the points of the polygons that lie inside the opposite polygons, removing them from the list, adding the intersection points to the list, and making sure that the polygon follows a single path. In order to do that, I need a few things. I built a function that checks intersection points, and now I'm in the middle of trying to find a point that, or build a function, I should say, that classifies if a point is inside a given polygon. So this is just a visual representation. These are just random points, and they're colored green if the check passes for inside the polygon. And so you can see that all the polygons that, or pardon me, that you can see that all of the points that sit inside here do work. But I can create a situation where what I have will not work. It's pretty simple. It's related to what's called convexity of the polygon. Let me pull up my little scratch sheet here. So here, let me uncover this. If I do this, that will create here. This shape here, you can see is concave, which just means this part of the polygon turns in on itself here. Strangely enough, it's not broken in the same way that it normally is, and I don't know why. I was going to point out that every other time I ran this, or maybe it's just some weird fluke, I don't know. It I have to adjust my thinking a little bit, but prior I had, so there was basically it failed to, it was earlier saying that all of these points in this area, right, roughly speaking here, they were also inside when they're not. Now what's going wrong is this isn't classifying correctly. So in general, I'm trying to make an algorithm that will, with reasonable accuracy, split a concave polygon into a set of triangles by doing what's called ear clipping. And then I can run the point check on every triangle, because triangles are guaranteed to be convex shapes. And then the theory is, with that, it all should work. So I am trying to write a recursive function here, and the problem is my brain is not very good at writing recursive functions yet. So I'm just trying to logic my way through that. That's really all that's going on. So the problem at this ear clipping thing is related to my lack of confidence with recursive algorithms, and that is just a matter of time and practice and training on my end. So hopefully that makes a little bit of sense. Yeah, the weirdness is I honestly couldn't tell you at the moment why this is kind of working. Like, I promise you earlier these were all green, and I thought I knew why, but it doesn't make much sense to me. So the chaos is high today. The chaos is it's really happening. I wonder if it's the other constant issue I have at the moment. You following? Okay, good. That's good. The other constant thing going on is I am totally trapped with floating point precision struggles. I'm not saying floating point values are totally fine. They're very useful, right? But there are a lot of situations where I end up wanting to just write, hey, does this value equal this value? If yes, then there's an intersection. But if those values are integers, it's fine. If they're floats, which could easily happen when you're talking about, you know, trigonometry and angles and you know, any real thing you want to draw is very likely going to end up with floating point values in there, or double precision values, whatever you want. But you can't compare those, not with equality anyway. You have to use some epsilon value, and that epsilon value that provides reasonably adequate results is highly dependent on a bunch of different things, some of which would be user controlled. For example, the units that you're using. If you're designing something on the order of meters long, you might not need an epsilon that's really, really precise. But if you're designing things on the order of millimeters, you might need a different epsilon. And boy, oh boy, I have not baked into my code a good solution to that problem yet. So I just have that kind of burning away at the back of my mind as well. So I do, you know, it's even for something like this where I'm not going to care about it until I have a working pipeline. You could see how, see these 2 points here, one's red, one's green, they're like, they're so close to that line that you could imagine basically dropping a point almost exactly on the line in terms of what the human would call on the line, but it might not be, right? So there will be certainly situations where the result as calculated by the computer won't match intuition or be precise enough. And I have no solution for that yet. I just know that it might become a problem. So, but that's a whole other tangent. What I've got going on now is me trying to figure this out. That's my jam. Okay, so let's not use short forms here. Let's do that. Okay, clip ear A. So this just isn't working the way I want it to, right? It's not. My expected result is something more like this. It'll be a vector of a triangle like that. Yeah. That's not helpful. Not what I meant. Why don't I use this instead? It'll look more like what I'm expecting is triangles, the output I want, a list of lists of 3 points. That's a triangle in the context of what I'm trying to do. And in the case of the shape I'm testing with, it should be a list of 3 triangles. And then theoretically, the way I'm trying to build this out, keep and endpoints will both have values in them on the last one, but endpoints will be of length 2. It'll only have 2 points in it, not 3, because that would indicate that I've taken already everything I need. And now that may be where I'm incorrect about something. So what I'll do instead, let's have a look at what's going on here. Okay. This is where, like, I'm trying to have tries just be an accumulator, right? I want to accumulate the triangle that gets pulled off of the new points every time. That's all I'm trying to do with that. And I thought that this would be the way to do it. It's always a trade-off between precision and performance. If you want it really precise, you could turn it into a set of equations, pass it to an algebra system operating without floats, and then give you an answer. Do you mean along the lines of like symbolically solving things instead of numerically solving in general? Or am I conflating different concepts? I'm not sure. But yeah, you're absolutely right. The trade-off is also non-obvious sometimes, right? Like in engineering and CAD, it's very often the case that you want precision, but in prior work experience, I can promise that your manager, your boss, wants performance. You want both in the ideal world, but in a CAD situation, that balance point is so hard to find a lot of times. So yeah, symbolically, especially not using floats rather than rationals, which we have as well in Clojure. Yes, I am aware that we have rationals in Clojure too. I haven't, so in general, I know that these things exist as a thing to worry about or as a thing to make decisions about. but I haven't made those decisions yet. So there are times where rationals go into a function and I force it into a float just so that I, in the comparison phases that I currently have, they're both just going to be float values. It's really not perfect, but it's getting some ideas in place and then working out those things as I go is the idea. A CAS, computer-aided solver, I assume is what that means. CAS may be faster, especially if you have a lot of equations. It is usually slower, often by a factor of 1,000 or more. Yeah, I'm actually not too surprised to hear that. I don't know the internals necessarily of a solver system, but I would assume that, being very, very naive about it, there's a little bit of guess and check kind of work required for different solvers. I might be way off there, I don't know, but in any case, I'm sure there's a lot of mechanistic overhead when you're trying to solve equations symbolically. Again, something I don't know much about at all. I'm just kind of spitballing. It is something that I kind of want to learn about, though. But it is not something I understand yet. I promise that. Is there just something really obvious I'm missing here? Well, This won't help me out all that much. Let's, instead of trying to conj the tries like this, let's just let's see here. Oh, well, no, let's do this. Conj, instead of try, we'll conj the count of endpoints, just so. Let's see if this returns something that I think it will. Clip ear a 4. Am I just wrong about this? If count is greater than this, it'll be 3. So you actually want to run it one more time. Is maybe I'm just making a goofy mistake. Okay, so let's conj. Instead of count endpoints, which has 2 values in it now, let's just conj try onto that. Oh, I think I know that. So this will be close to what I want, but not quite right yet. So if I count this, I think it'll say 2. Yeah. So here, if instead of tries I return endpoints, in this case it'll actually be, oops. So I wasn't that far off, I was just being wrong about the bounds here. If I do this now, I'm missing one triangle. Some of my logic is failing somewhere. Let's see. So, by the way, can't you determine if it's in a polygon by simply drawing a line from a point to some random point outside the polygon, intersecting it with every line of the polygon? Yeah, so that is exactly what I'm doing. There's that works for convex polygons, but it can cause incorrect things with concave polygons. So, for example, let's take this green point here. Oh, I'm not sure if you can see that easily with the mouse, but I'll assume you can. So this green point, if I just draw out to a random point like you say, there will be, if you count the intersections, there will be one intersection. And we can say, hey, if there is an intersection, it is inside. This point here, you can draw away and you can surmise correctly that it is not inside there. But there would also be, let's see, this point right here. Let's imagine, I've been drawing to the right, so that is maybe a bad example, but let's imagine a situation where you draw up like this. You'll have a count. You'll have 1, 2 intersection points, so it won't be 0 and it'll be outside. So actually, now that I'm saying it, is it literally just counting? Is it, if it's even numbers, then it is inside. If it's odd numbers, it's outside? No, other way around. Well, now I have to check that. Shoot, maybe that's all it is. You might be onto something. I was pretty. Now I'm second guessing myself, but I was pretty sure. Yeah, inside if it's odd. There's a special case of some kind, but I don't remember it. Oh, it's see if I could come up with one. What am I doing? There is a situation where if you're drawing a line to a point, so imagine this, okay, here, maybe I can show what I'm trying to think. If this point here, if you're drawing to a point outside and it intersects at, like right at the corner, so it detects a single intersection point, which would be valid, right? It could detect a single point, but then it'll incorrectly classify it as inside the polygon. So I believe that that's the special case. But if I pretend that that's a non-issue, now that I'm thinking along this line, maybe I made a way bigger deal out of it than I thought. It seems highly unlikely with floats. It might be highly unlikely if it's possible at all. It is possible. So if instead of, you could draw to a random point outside of the polygon, but you could also say, I instead of drawing to a random point, I always want to draw to a point that's to the right of the polygon, double the width of the polygon, right? So you draw a horizontal line just for simplicity. Then in a CAD situation, it's reasonable to say you might have a shape that goes to a point at that exact midpoint, in which case the user has drawn some CAD shape that will have a single intersection point there. So you're absolutely right that it's highly unlikely if you select some random point, and theoretically that might be fine, but it's probably a good idea to have those edge cases in mind, because I'd hate for that to show up as an issue. But along that line, I'm going to assume that that's a non-issue for now, and I'm going to try follow that thinking just for a moment here to see if I could just fix this up ever so slightly. So I've actually just got this. If this count is 0, if there are no intersection points, this means the point is outside, yeah. So if instead I do, if the count is odd, is it as simple as that? Let me check. Pick a point very far outside. It's unlikely it would precisely intersect. That's definitely true. Then if they don't equal, you get a third point. then you have your answer. Yeah, yeah, that's definitely the case. It's probably, it is probably the better approach. Yeah. Yeah, I can agree with that. Trying to think if, yeah, no, I think that's a good point. Let me just double check my brain on this one. Point inside convex. All right, so this point inside this would be 2, 2, right? So if I do point inside, whoop, not at all what I wanted to write. Point inside convex. It's inside A, and the point I want to check is 2, 2. It is inside, that's true. If I do -2, 2, it is not inside, so that's false. Okay, so let's assume that that is going to work reasonably well for now. Wait a second, did I invert this? If the count's odd, does 0 show up as odd? No. I may have inverted, well, whatever. Let's visually see this. Whoops. By the way, do you also want to check for polygons with holes? Yes, I will at some point. I was thinking, related to that, that I would have, I would flag it or whatever. It shouldn't be possible to intersect exactly at the edges. The edges are always part of exactly 2 lines. I don't follow with what you've suggested on the last. You're probably right. I'm not following at the moment. Also, when I do want to have polygons with holes as a thing you can draw. My thought was, and I don't know if it's right yet, is to kind of have a flag on polygons. So if it's some compound, right, there might be a path inside that's flagged as hole, in which case you just independently you check the major polygon if the shape's inside there, and then you check the inverse if it's in the hole or not, and then you just invert. You just invert you exclusive or the results of those, or something along those lines. Not sure if any of that's making sense. I'm a little sloppy today, unfortunately, but that's just the way it's got to be. So got to work with my brain, not against it. So okay, let's load file. Okay. Oops. Okay. Oh, what a mess. Oh, well, so it goes. Is this gonna work correctly? Oh yeah, I did it exactly in verse. See, one really funny thing about correctness is that if you have a solution that is exactly wrong, you arguably also have the solution that's exactly right. I've just produced the inverse solution in this case. I should have, I guess, done Does 0 show up as even? Yes, it does. Does that make sense? I suppose it does. Yeah, so I just inverted the solution here. All right, let's go ahead, give that a shot. Let's restart this quickly and reload it and reload the test file, just as a little sanity check. Let's go here. All right. Oh, I did. You know what? There's a chance I didn't actually save this file and didn't incorporate that change. That's exactly what happened. Today's a day for me, I tell you that. Hey, you know what? They're not all winners. Oh, you know, sometimes I'm a little bit embarrassed sometimes at the silliness that I display while I'm streaming, but admittedly I'm never embarrassed enough to stop streaming, so I'm not sure if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but that's definitely what's going through my brain at the moment. Not sure what that says about me, really. Let's see. Okay. All I have to do is just reload this one more time. Hopefully, I'm not... you serious? Where's my... Oh, I've lost the plot. Okay. Scroll through this history. Load the file. I did this in inverse order, but it doesn't make a difference because you can load the namespace. All right. Okay, there we go. Now we're on the right track with things. If it's easy, you're not challenging yourself enough. Yeah, you know what? I think that's a pretty good perspective. Seriously, there are some days where I just wish it were easy, you know, but I do ultimately, if I sit and have a think about it later, it's like, you know what, I do vastly prefer those days where I've pushed through some challenge and accomplished something. Or, even if I haven't, I feel satisfied that I tried, right? It's really the trying that, at least for myself, is always the thing that I want to keep doing, so... Don't feel embarrassed. People who code and never run into issues are not coding in real world scenarios. Yeah. Oh, you know, like I said, it's not embarrassing enough that I stop, but it is, it does take a little bit of a nerve sometimes, I'll say. Not trying to say I'm great or anything, I'm just saying, like, there are days where I have to psych myself up a little bit. You know, that's totally fine though. I think it's a pretty human thing to do. Okay. So with Lumi's suggestion, they've pointed out that this should probably be pretty good. I have not considered the edge cases yet that I even laid out, specifically related to the check line, like the what I think is called the sweep line in the intersection algorithm. I have not put in any guard for the case where it might intersect along a singular point here, but Lumi is saying as well that in that case, so I might just not be following it right now, but that might not even be a problem. So for the sake of this whole thing, I'm going to not worry about it for now, and I'm just going to keep an eye open and build some test cases, maybe even head back into spec to sort of auto-generate a bunch of polygons or something like that. I wonder if I could do that. I probably could. Anyway, all that stuff I can make the computer do for me at some point. all of that on stream was probably not a great idea. So it's probably still a problem. Did some reading. Yeah, okay. So I appreciate your input, Lumi. That's really helpful. The thing about polygons, well, in geometry like this in general, is in every bit of reading I've done, the basic idea is very straightforward, but then there's a few not immediately obvious edge cases that end up being quite important, and those are the sticking points in a lot of cases. For example, I had a line intersection algorithm, but I was giving it line segments, but it was giving an intersection point beyond the segment, right? So that was infinite line intersections, which is totally valid, but then I had to do a line segment thing, and that has different scenarios going on. It all works, right? But it's just I had to keep in mind a lot of these sort of edge cases. So I will still keep those things in mind, absolutely. But this is pleasing to me because it's like, you know, it's in the positive direction of success. Let me run a few random triangles through this bad boy and see what I can come up with here. Oh, something's wrong with what? Probably this. I just comment my problems away today. So this is one thing that I also in general am wary about is I took a finite element methods class in one of my undergrad mechanical engineering undergrad classes. And one thing that we had to do, you'd take some model, right, and you have to put a mesh, you have to mesh it so that you have they're usually TET 3D objects, and then the computer will do a solve for all of those elements and their respective modulus and blah blah blah. Point is, when you run the meshing algorithm, you really wanted to minimize as much as possible any elements that had really long really high aspect ratios like this. A really long slim shard like that can cause problems. And in the case of something like intersections here, you could see perhaps why. See, this right here indicates how that looks really unintuitive, I would say. And looking unintuitive is a weak argument, but you can see how someone who would be using something like this might end up being a little concerned about situations like that. Yeah, from rounding errors, absolutely, yeah. So another thing on the list to pay attention to, that list does not shrink. The list of things to care about just it grows in an unbounded fashion. That is totally fine with me though. These are fun challenges. All right, so what's a good next thing to do? You know what? I just want to put a pin in this ear clip, in the clip ear thing, because I still want to be able to use it and have it as if I just need some set of triangles and I don't care that much about it, an ear clip might be faster to perform than, say, a Delaunay triangulation. So it would be useful to have in the toolbox. So I want to turn my mind back toward this for a moment and see if I can actually get it working the way I have intended. I'm close, but I'm not quite there yet. But before I do, I'm going to grab some coffee, so I'll be back in a minute. Yes, another thing I haven't finished yet is the animations for the Be Right Back screen. Oh, I have this weekend earmarked for these sort of side projecty things. I need to get things done. What a crazy time for me to be alive, I'll tell you that. All right, I'm going to be right back. Okay. Well, let me have a little look at this. Oop. Okay. This is a completely unrelated thought to programming for a little bit, but anyone watching, do in general just hope that everyone's doing relatively okay. I've been thinking, about the state of, the world right now with the pandemic situation and stuff, and just, I'm lucky enough to be healthy and have a spot and all that sort of stuff. But, just hope everyone's doing okay. Just a message of care. Not trying to be cheesy, just I do hope people are doing relatively okay, when they can, where they can. That's important to me. I can't do a ton myself, but to try and be encouraging, I think, is not useless. Okay, clip ear. That's what I want to do. So close. So close. All right, what is going wrong? Let's have a little look at the tries here. I don't know if this works, does it? Well, that wasn't helpful. My eyes go loopy looking at nested lists of, or nested vectors of vectors. It's hard to parse it out with my eyeballs. So Turn to my trusty pen and paper. I tried a little setup. I have an iPad and I have the Apple Pencil, so I can use that as like, should print them line-wise as tables. I don't know how to do that, or I'm not sure what you mean by that, to be honest. Is there like a pretty print or something like that? I don't know what I'm doing. Not sure if it's something built in, but there are libraries, of course. Yeah, well, I certainly don't have one installed. At least I don't think I do, unless there's a cider. Holy crap! This is not helping me. Maybe. Well, actually, while I'm on that, see if this has any, if the internet has any answers for me. Cider also has a viewer for it. Yeah, it probably does. See CMI Cider Inspect. Oh, wait a second. I'm learning on the fly here. Cider middleware error. Yeah, okay. Yeah. I'm not in the mood to debug Cider right now, so I am going to let that one pass me by. I'm writing a little note to myself though. One thing, so I love Emacs and I love org mode and all that stuff, but there are definitely times where I don't like that things can break. Things sometimes feel a little brittle. Doesn't work perfectly. So admittedly, some of this is my own, like, there was a period of time where I kind of I said, okay, there's a lot of Emacs stuff that I could learn, but I'm going to put a wall here and focus on learning Clojure, REPL development, and that sort of stuff. And I know I don't know when to kind of peek over the barrier, you know, but some of it doesn't feel robust. Yeah, brittle designs, a lot of it is done by junior devs. Yeah, so, you know, and that's just the way, it's fine, right? Like, things mostly work. It's just occasionally I have this sort of feeling to it. But I also don't have a huge desire to spend a ton of time learning other tools at the moment. Not at all saying there's that. I definitely should learn and set up a system that works really well for me. It's just, it's a matter of time and effort and all that stuff. Anyway, blah blah blah. I'm just complaining about nothing. What was I writing here? Emacs update Cider, maybe. Okay. Oh, right. I had this notebook out to actually draw something. And I was saying earlier, I have an iPad. So right now I'm actually drawing with a pen and paper. I have an iPad that I can do these drawings on too, and I can even put the screen on here. But I tried to set up an overlay, and I don't know. I think I need something with a little more power to it to be able to display those things nicely. So for the time being, I don't have a good solution for that. But I would like something, because I think it would be really cool to have a sort of whiteboard as well, where I could sketch out what I'm thinking and stuff quickly on a pad and then have the stream see it as well. I think that would be pretty neat. Kind of could help me present things a little more clearly too. But today is not the day for that, so I'm just going to draw the shape I'm testing this with and the order in which I slice the triangles off. So this is the result from Clojure. It's 0, 0 to 10, 0 to 5, 5, which is what I thought it would slice. And the second slice is 10, 10 to 0, 10 to 0, 0, which is a strange slice but a valid one. And then this is the thing that I still don't have a solution in my mind for. I'm missing. I don't have enough. I don't have the final thing. Have I considered a secondary camera plus just handwritten real paper? Seen it on another stream and it looked good. Actually, that's a good point too. That might even be the simpler approach. I have tried to, I attempted to turn my iPhone into an IP camera and stream it through my Wi-Fi and set that up as an OBS source, but there was obviously some lag there. So I just I haven't had occasion yet to buy a new camera to set up with a wired connection. There's a few things in terms of equipment that I'm thinking of purchasing, not exclusively for streaming, right? Like I want a better computer in general for some other stuff, but there's a few things kind of on the list. It's just I don't necessarily want to spend a huge lump sum of money all at once, especially if my only justification is for streaming, because admittedly I'm not streaming to the masses here, so but the camera approach is not a bad idea either. Capture card's probably what you want. A few low-end ones. Yeah, so 720p ones aren't too expensive. Yeah, so I run, like this computer that I'm developing on is running through a capture card, and I'm actually running my stream off a different computer already. So I have a capture card. I don't know that many more inputs to this streaming computer will actually work. Yeah, so I already have a capture card. I just don't have good cameras set up yet either. So that's what I mean. There's a few things that I could buy, a few peripherals here and there and kind of improve things. And I plan to. It's just a time and money thing, you know? Like, I think one of the things I do want to improve is I am just using the webcam on this thing. It's not exactly the best. And I don't have a ton of control over its position, so. People use systems with like 10 capture cards. It should just work. I'm a little worried that the computer I'm using isn't powerful enough for that, but I take your word for it. there's a few things on my list soon enough to improve, so I'm excited about that. It'll be fun to get a slightly nicer mic as well. I'm not going to break the bank on any of this, but it should be fun. You're only encoding once? That's true. That is true. Similar to having an extra window open. I'm just thinking about, I'm picking up what you're putting down. I think you're right. I am wondering though, how much of a performance impact. So my camera window here it has a transform on it. It's scaled down and translated. Admittedly a pretty easy transform to compute, but there is some computational cost to that transformation, I'm assuming. So I'm just wondering what, the more inputs you have into OBS is what I use, and the more transforms you put on all of those, I do wonder what the performance impact is on that. I don't doubt what you're saying, and I am not too worried about it. Like, buying this stuff is not, if it doesn't work the way I expect, okay, I figure something out, but I'm just thinking through that, that's all. It's not as close to as high as I might think. High DPI desktops are using that all the time now. Huh, okay. I guess I just have a misconception for how intensive that stuff would actually be. I might be, I'm sort of recalling when in my younger days, I would rip DVDs and then transcode them overnight on my parents' computer so that I could put them on my PlayStation Portable. And that transcoding took a long time. So I'm just conflating different things with all of that. Yeah, GPUs being good at it makes a lot of sense. I don't have the best GPU. But anyway, I'm absolutely certain that over time I will be building a setup in general that I'll be happy with, that I think will work nicer, it'll look nicer, it'll be a better stream, people will like it. That's the dream. No need to rush myself too much though. I think all things considered, I'm pretty happy with how things have been going even with this setup. It's certainly not the most glamorous, but you know what? It's doing the trick okay. Okay, let's have a look at what am I doing wrong with this? Right, so this remaining thing should have points 0, 0, 5, 5, and 10, 10. According to the according to the diagram that I've drawn for myself here. So if I follow through my logic with this, it slices off first 0, 0, 10, 0, 5, 5. No, it actually slices the other one off first, doesn't it? No? No, yeah, so 0, 0, 10, 0, 5, 5 is first off. I take out of the list 10, 0. So that's gone entirely. That makes sense to me. And then that new list now should have 0, 0, 10, 10, 0, 0, 5, 5, 10, 10, and 10, 0. Then it takes the slice of 0, 0, 10, 10, 10, 10, 0, 10, 0, 0. So it should remove 0, 10, which it does, but it's not doing anything else. What? What time is it right now? Getting a little short on time. It's just gonna have to be okay though. Well, let's just do the lazy thing for a moment. Yeah. Right, so that is stuck in a loop, right? Because the count will always get stuck at 2, right? It will never break below that, so it just recurs infinitely, which is no good. Maybe I'd have to switch the order of concatenation here, right? So that the keep point is in front here, so it doesn't shuffle the points around. That shouldn't really make a difference if I'm thinking about the algorithm, but it might. Right, so it takes the same one, slices off first, which makes complete sense, and then it slices off 0, 0, 5, 5, 10, 10, which is actually a nicer order to slice. So it should remove 5, 5 from that list. And then why is it only 0, 0, and 0, 10? That's the thing I'm confused about still at the moment. Because the keep I don't understand why that. So I totally was expecting that this remaining part should be a triangle left over, and I don't know why that's not the case. So come on, brain. Should be able to do this. Oh, wait a second. Is it just this? Is it literally, I have calculated tries, but I haven't, in the last step, I still have to conj the final triangle onto the tries list. Is it just that? Am I just missing a simple conj? It would appear that that might be the case. Okay, 0, 0 to 10, 0 to 5, 5. That's 1. 5, 5, 10, 10, or 0, 0, 5, 5, 10, 10. Boom. 0, 0, 10, 10, 0, 10. There it is. Such a simple solution. Oh boy, goofy. Yeah, so I was forgetting that in the last cycle of it, I calculated try, but I was only returning tries from the previous step, right? So it was just never being slapped onto the list there. Victory. Yeah, you got that right. Oh, all right. I feel good about that. And I actually feel good about it because the idea I had for actually writing this recursively was pretty much correct from the start. It was just my execution was a little bit lacking. Obviously still an issue, but when the concept is right, that's a bit of a win. I'll take it. I'll take it as a win. Yeah, there we go. So that should work for me now. So if I clip ear of A, I should get a list of 3 triangles. So if I count that, 4. Oh wait, what have I done now? There we go, that'll work. I did it in the reverse. There we go, 3. Perfect. All right, that is good. So now, to follow through on that logic, instead of using the Delaunay triangulation here, which was wrong for me, I am just going to make sure that this idea has some promise to it by doing the clip ear approach on, this should be called clip ears really. Clip ears, yeah. Okay, so let me just do that. Clip ears from the points. So that'll get me a list of triangles, and then for those triangles, just do all this junk. And that should theoretically work for concave and convex polygons without issues, I think. So I'm going to go back to the little scratch pad here and give it a shot. Oh man, that's a step in the right direction. That is a step forward. Okay, so let me go ahead and pop this open here. And instead of using inside convex, let me just use the old inside algorithm here. Let's build that. Refresh this. That's the wrong shape. That's a triangle. I don't want that. Okay, here. This is, there's a nice green point way up there. Not sure why that's doing that, but okay. So this here, this image on screen here is using the Delaunay triangulation, which is what I was trying to describe earlier, where it has the convex hull. So it has 4 triangles that it checked for. So that's why, so this whole region is incorrect. So what I'm hoping for is when I reload, actually I have to save this. When I reload this into the other REPL and regenerate this image, I hope, I don't know for sure, but I hope that this will be red and that my approach also works. Maybe slower, but it might work, which is definitely a win. Because I might need this approach after all. I don't know for sure, but it's good to have some tools in the back pocket. Load it up. Unable to resolve clip ear. Typo. Where is it? Oh, yeah. So this is actually one thing I don't know if this is like a good way to do these sorts of things, where so this is a recursive approach and it needs an accumulator. So the tries is the list, like it's an accumulator here, and the recursion works just fine with that. But I want to call the function, and I don't want to have to initiate the list myself. So you can do what's it called? You can have a multi-arity function where it just initializes with an empty one when you call it with only a single argument. I don't know if this is like a good way to do that or not. I've seen it before and I've used it before, but I'm not entirely sure that that's necessarily like the smoothest way to do it, but it does work, at least in the case of recursion like that. But okay, now let's load the namespace here. Generally you keep the optional parameter as the last one. So it isn't, I mean, fair point, but what I mean, so for this here, it's not optional, right? Like, well, actually, let me think about what I'm saying here. I only really need the user of the function to call it with a single list of points, which is a polygon, loosely speaking. Apart from that, it's pretty standard. So, okay, actually, so effectively you do mean, I think you just mean rearrange it like that. You can write an internal function or a separate private function. Can I do reduce on this? I suppose you're right. Wait, can I? Well, that'll be an exercise for me later, because if I can use reduce, which you're probably right, then I actually prefer a reduce solution as well. It just didn't pop into my head as correct. But anyway, that's fine. Suppose I could. If it's not exactly reduce, there are all kinds of similar patterns, although not built into Clojure. Okay. Recursion schemes. Okay. Huh. As is always the case, there's more for me to learn than what I already know. No, I do like using reduce when I can. I know, or I have very, very loose intuitions about there are ways in which you can sort of build data structures and algebraic rules about how you can combine those structures to make reduce work, but I have to find those things and practice it a little more before I really have comfort with that, right? But in general, reduce and all that stuff is very helpful. But you know what? I also do need to practice recursive stuff, so it's not bad to try it out. Okay. What was I doing? Oh yeah, I have to reload this one more time, of course. Where am I at here? Losing my mind. There we go. Oop, load. Hopefully I didn't miss. Well, now what's going on? What did I do now? What happened? Oh, okay, yeah. Well, of course, I have to change the order that I actually write my arguments. Ah! The real reason those abstractions exist is because you can reason about them properly using type theory, as opposed to general recursion, where you cannot always easily prove termination. That's the reason they came about, but they are also easier to work with sometimes and provide good patterns for program design. So that I completely understand. Once I was able to wrap my head around map, filter, reduce, those sorts of things, running over lists, it's like it matched really nicely to how my brain likes to break down processes and stuff anyway, and it just made programming a little more fun to me, to be completely honest. So I understand that those sorts of abstractions, I totally get why they're useful, even beyond yeah, just as a building intuition about programs and design, like you say. Yeah, I totally get it. Admittedly, I'm not perfect at using them, but it's a step. It's steps forward. All right. So I flop this around. Points, tries, recur with the points and the tries is there, and just return const tries try at the end. And of course this is now wrong too. I have to call points with an empty list. Okay, that should work now, right? Let's check it by running it before I try to load it. For real? Clip ears. There we go. Count. That should be 3. Okay, we're in the money now. Save it. For real? Oh yeah, have to restart that. These fiddly bits here are things I don't like. I'm really getting keen to get my, so I have a few kind of slices for different libraries that I'm working on. I'm really keen to get them more and more stable so that I don't have to make a change in one library and then reload the REPL session when I'm working on a little program here. It'll be nice to stabilize the libraries and or have a smoother work process for that one day. Because this stuff that I'm doing right now is just a little tedious and silly, right? There are better ways. I know this. I do know this. Of course, I never think it's going to be a big deal, right? And then it always ends up being more work than I thought. Okay, so that loaded. Zip up here. Pop that namespace in that bad boy. Alright, let's rebuild this. Hey, that's okay. Point inside. That appears to be working the way I want. Alright. I'm pumped. I'm Very happy with that. What time are we at here? Got about 15 minutes to goof around. I'm happy with that. Okay, let me run. Because I also had, when I was working on this, I had some weirdness with some of the pentagon shapes. So let me go ahead and comment that out. Put this one back in. Okay, zoom out a little bit there. Okay, that's looking okay, but that's not a pentagon. It's a hexagon. Let's give that one a shot. I think one day it would be really cool to have a REPL that you can send renderable, like quote unquote renderable evals to it. So for example, if so that the object, I'm using this, that exists already. What might that be called? Because I'm very curious about that. Because I would prefer that to putting stuff to the browser all the time. Like if I could render these sorts of things into a REPL, that might be a more fun and useful workflow. I thought so. I searched for like visual REPL before, but I've never. Or do you mean stuff like dev cards? So I very, very briefly looked into like a web view in Emacs. That was the first thought that came to my mind. But you have to compile a certain fork of Emacs that has like WebKit encoded or something like that. The idea is that the data returned from the REPL is tagged, then Emacs code turns it into the format it supports, then displays it. Should be pretty easy to do. Sounds pretty cool. Emacs does support images, not SVG or anything like that. Oh, yeah, now that you say it, that is something I've attempted, and is that actually still the case? I am a little curious. I think you're right. I think you're right about that. You can also embed a full browser in an Emacs buffer. Not quite the same. Yeah, that would be close. That's not quite what I would be looking for. But it wouldn't be bad, actually. What am I looking for? What am I doing? I had... No. Okay. Output. There we go. I think I have... Ooh, there's a bunch of PNGs in there. Okay. I think... Okay, so this is it's a crappy SVG, but you actually can display SVG in Emacs, apparently. Oh, it converts it. I did not know that. Oh, okay, so this makes sense using image magic. This all makes sense to me now. There was a time where I tried to open an SVG and it did not display. I have since installed image magic for other purposes and now it's working. So it's all making sense to me now. I would love so it's one thing to have like static SVGs in there, but it would be so cool as well to like send a renderable and it's a 3D object that you could, in the REPL, you could zoom in and out and pan and like look at the object and stuff like that. Man, that'd be neat. Even that might already exist, I don't know, but I'm not currently. It's just a thought that would be really neat. I have no plan to implement something like that myself yet. I have to take one step at a time with my ideas. That's the idea, though it is doable. Yeah, I'm certain it's image API is slow, no GPU acceleration. Oh yeah, so when I'm talking about looking at some kind of 3D thing in, I would probably not do it in Emacs at that point. I would sooner wonder about taking a GPU accelerated, say, Vim instance or something, and figuring out how to put a 3D rendering viewport on that and coming up with some kind of system like that. But I'm totally spitballing. I have no idea if that would make sense. I mean, just having images in Emacs would be a great, cool step anyway. Like, that certainly would be pretty neat. So, you know, even a step before actual 3D manipulation, it would be pretty cool. And maybe not nearly as hard as I think. If you step out of the official APIs, you can directly render an OpenGL window on top of Emacs. That's not portable across the different graphics APIs. Yeah, I don't know how much of a bespoke solution I would want to concoct, but yeah, if I don't care about it, it's doable. Oh man, so this is intriguing to me. I keep adding ideas to my list, and I never get to the bottom. But I do think a sort of a REPL kind of approach to 3D modeling with your source code and visuals all in a nice contained editor kind of app. I think that would be a pretty cool approach. I think people would like that. Should really learn eLisp first. This is advanced stuff. Yeah, I don't doubt that at all. I'm not thinking like, oh yeah, I could bang that out in a weekend. That's totally not what I'm thinking here. You run a REPL in a browser and don't have it in your editor. That's actually not a bad idea either. Supports a lot of these features. It's not open source though. Oh, okay. Is it like hacked together, like a thing that you hacked together, just out of curiosity? Jump to eLisp from Lisp and Clojure isn't too far. At least I didn't think it was. Massive leap to make. Oh, Mike, so when I first was learning everything, eLisp was like my Emacs configuration in init.el looked total garbage because I had no idea what I was doing. But I have a lot more confidence just reading through that stuff now, so I wouldn't be too concerned about learning it. It's just a yet again another time thing, right? But that's a good point. It's probably not too bad. But I have to be a little bit careful with the kinds of things I try to pursue, right? Because I want to get this library stable and usable beyond just myself, right? Like where theoretically someone else who would want to use it could read the docs, figure it out, make a useful pull report if there's something wrong and all that stuff. So I would like to get to that point. And if I keep trying other things, it might never happen. So I want to be a little bit careful with all the side stuff I pursue. But on that note, it would be really cool to have a REPL where you pass all this stuff like normal, but you can also pass visual elements to it. That just seems like it would be a fun approach. It's a little bit like how Jupyter Notebooks tries to make like their notebooks like interactive and all of that sort of stuff, but a REPL is a little, it feels better to me. Am I even doing anything useful right now? The answer is of course no. Racket has that out of the box in their IDE. Is the Racket IDE, is that Dr. Racket? I hope that's a safe thing to search. Yeah, there we go. You know, I really should hop into this sometime too. 3D graphics, Bluetooth socket connector. Huh. Neat. All right, well, there, I'll add this one to the Learn It list. Cool. Yeah, Dr. Racket, perfect. Man, when I was first, like before I decided to teach myself Clojure at all, I was interested in learning a Lisp language of some kind. It's a hard thing to wrap your head around, you know? There's Common Lisp, there's Scheme, there's Racket, and it's hard to know what the actual differences are, because if you don't know, they do look basically the same, right? But they're distinct, and it took me a minute to wrap my head around all that. But now that I know Clojure, Racket seems approachable, and so does eLisp and all that stuff. So the world is my oyster now when it comes to these Lisp languages. Yeah, they're all quite different. They're all missing certain things in all the others. Yeah, well, so it's like, you know, you could say this is a very loose statement, but JavaScript and C, they both have curly braces, right? So they're similar, but they're really rather distinct in a lot of ways, right? Similarly, Scheme and Clojure, they have parens and they use lists, but they have quite a bit of difference to them as well, right? The initial first appearance doesn't really correlate with the features, right? Racket's probably the most theoretically advanced. Okay, well, that's intriguing too. Seems like if you know Racket, you could have reasonable access to, like, I would imagine it's used in academic settings from time to time, if I had to guess. If it's got theoretical advancements to it. Let's see here. Is there anything useful I can do for, let's say, 10 minutes before I get going? I've seen a few people use Racket to prototype programming languages. Oh, that's pretty cool. Mike was saying earlier that he was thinking about, or he had started researching writing his own language as a learning experience. So who knows? Maybe Mike ends up using using Racket tools for that. What am I doing? What am I doing? Okay, so now remove inner points, polygon A, polygon B. Let's just whip together something that might work, and we'll go from there. I gotta get going in about 5 to 10 minutes, so I shouldn't, this almost certainly won't be finished, but my idea is something along these lines. Get intersection points of polygons. Oh boy, typos. If 0, done. If 1, done. Else, are there situations where there could be more than 2 points? Else, continue. This is horrible note taking. It's okay. Let's see. Remove PGB points that, oh boy, that are inside PGA. Remove PGA points that are inside PGB. Then combine the vertices. Oh, that's not actually good enough yet. Cut yeah, I have to do a trim PGA lines to intersection points. Trim PGB lines to intersection points. Combine PGA points, intersection points, and PGB. Oh boy, PGB points. This is the hard, or this is a thing that matters. You can't just arbitrarily do it because the order of points matters. So order matters. Not sure how to preserve that yet, but this is the thing that's come to mind. I have not looked up if there are more efficient union approaches already. I just am trying to implement things out of my brain, seeing if they work, and then as I find the real bottlenecks to those approaches, then I can do a little more in-depth research into optimizations, but that seems pretty good. So let's just remove it. This isn't a very, that's not a good name for this necessarily, but hi Pablo. Apologies, I don't speak any German. Yeah, Lumi, is that it not being appropriate? Let's see here. Nope, not the right button. Well, shoot. Come on. There we go. Ugh. I don't like having to do that stuff, but it's like, it's weird. The internet's a weird place sometimes. Thanks, Lumi. Not prepared for that kind of stuff. Eventually you'll get moderators to do that for you. Yeah, I know. It will be necessary at some point. That is not yet at this point though. But yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Okay. Okay, let removals, let's say we only want to remove well, let's just say we're gonna take away points from PGB that are inside PGA. So what's a good way to do that? So what's the how does map indexed work? If I do inc over 1, 2, 3 map indexed, oh, I don't know entirely how this works. Wait a second, let me just do this directly. I'll just do this. Vec 1, 2. No. There we go. Okay, so map indexed returns the index and the or it returns it passes into the function you're mapping two things, the index first and then the value from the collection. That's what is happening here. Right, so if I guess that's useful because I can make pairs of So yeah, I can run a predicate and then filter by that predicate and get the index of the points and then just remove them that way, right? I think that makes sense. So if I do map indexed, why didn't vec work though? I guess it doesn't matter. Let's map, we'll just do it this way. If I do into vector, wait a second. Oh, not that. Yeah, okay, there we go. I'm wondering why it shouldn't be that hard. I mix up vector and vec from time to time. Yeah, so this vector. Yeah, there we go. Thank you. All right, so map vector that and the result of point inside, which takes I'm gonna do PGA and the second argument there. So that's what I'm gonna map over PGB. Does that make sense? I have to just check that this is making sense so far, and then I have to get going. So this will be the last little thing I do. It's not complete, but it's a starting point. Okay, so if I remove inner points, let's do, let's def B as map V, V plus, let's shift the A up to like this. So there should be some points overlapping to remove it. Whoop. Have to pass it an actual list here. Okay, so A is this list of points, B is this. So this polygon here, it's got 2, 2 is exactly inside there at least. So let's see what happens when I do remove inner points, PGA, PGB, nope, AB. Does that make sense? Okay, 0 is true, so 2, 2 is inside of this. That does make sense. 1 is false, 2 is true, 7, 7 is inside. Yes, that makes sense. 3, true, false, true, true, false. Something looks wrong to me here, but I don't have, yeah, see this 12, 12 is not inside here, so gotta work on that. Well, there's still some kinks to iron out here, I guess. Some work to be done there. But that's not something I actually have time to do anymore for the day. I have to sign out, actually. You know, a lot of meandering, a lot of chatting about other things today, but I had a nice time today. Anyone watching now, I really appreciate it. Lumi and Mike, not sure if you're still in there at the moment, but I always appreciate when you're joining in on the chat. It really, it makes the stream nice for me. It's fun. I appreciate it a lot. Yeah, I hope everyone has a good day. I'll be streaming again tomorrow, and then I'll be off for the weekend. Yeah, that's really all I've got. Have a good one. and I'll be back tomorrow. Glad you could stop in too there, Mike. I'll see you later. Goodbye.